Has this ever happened to you? You're feeling a little off that day, maybe overwhelmed, and the next thing you know, you're doing something you swore you wouldn't. You're raiding the fridge, or picking a fight with your partner, maybe scrolling on your phone for hours. Why do we do this? Why do these negative habits show up, even when we know better, even when we've promised ourselves we won't do that anymore? Welcome to Change Made Easy. Changing your habits, routines, and behaviors is hard. We make it easy. I'm Paul, and I help anyone who's feeling stuck, stagnant, or burned out create positive change in their health, wealth, and relationships in ways that feel good and stick forever. It's that easy. Confucius said, "When anger arises, think of the consequences." Today, I'm going to introduce you to a simple tool that will help you pause and understand what's going on and finally take control of those patterns that you find yourself stuck in. I'll also share some stories of both myself and my clients because this is something that we all deal with. So if you've ever found yourself stuck in loops of bad habits and constantly going back to actions you promised yourself you wouldn't do again, keep listening. You'll learn where these negative patterns come from and why they keep popping up, as well as how to break out of them once and for all. Something that I'm super passionate about helping people with, and the main thing that I work with clients on every day, is how to go deeper and find the root cause of their problems and the things that are keeping them stuck. Because I've worked in the field of helping people change since 2012, so well over a decade now. And when it comes to things that hold people back, there are a few similar patterns that I've seen repeat amongst almost all people, myself included. And one of those patterns is that most people tend to focus on the action that occurred rather than the emotion that caused it. So here's an example. I work with people on nutrition, and I have a client who comes to me and says, "Man, Paul, I'm so disappointed in myself. Last night I ate a whole pizza, and today I just feel like crap." And I know that what most people assume that I will say as a nutrition coach in this situation is something along the lines of, "Well, you shouldn't have done that. You're trying to lose weight. Don't eat a whole pizza next time. Bad." Something like that. But that's not what I say. Because for one, that person probably already knew that eating an entire pizza was counter to his goals of losing weight or having better nutrition. And he already told me he feels like crap, so me piling on at that point doesn't really do anyone any good. What I actually do in a situation like that, which comes up more often than not, is I ask them, "Well, why did you do that? What led to you eating a whole pizza, even though you know you're trying to eat healthier and that it is counter to your goals?" And then I sit back and I listen, because it's what comes next that matters. Not the part about "I ate a whole pizza," but rather the why behind the what. So in this story, they might say, "Well, I was traveling for work and I was really just missing my wife and kids and kind of feeling down in the dumps. And I decided to order a pizza and then I just finished the whole thing." Or it might be, "I was running around all day. I was so busy. I got home late and pizza was the only thing open." Or it might be, "I got into a big fight with my boss after we lost a big client. So I stormed out and I went right to get pizza because that's always my comfort food." So all three of these scenarios resulted in the same thing, eating an entire pizza. But they're all very different root causes that led up to it. And if we just stop at the action, eating the entire pizza, we never uncover actually what's causing it, so we can stop it from happening again. Hey, real quick, we'll be back to the show in just a few seconds, but right now I just have to tell you about my free weekly newsletter. If you want to join the thousands of change seekers just like you who get a curated list each week of 5 educational, informative, and inspiring pieces of content to help you on your quest for change, then click the link in the notes that says free newsletter right now. You'll get signed up for free tips that will make your change journey easier, sent straight to your inbox every Friday. All you have to do is click free newsletter in whatever app you're listening on. Okay, now back to the show. So you might think, "Okay, Paul, that makes sense, but I'm not a therapist. I don't know why I do the things that I do sometimes. That's the issue." And luckily for you, you don't need an advanced degree in psychology, and you don't need to dig into all of your root cause trauma. You don't have to worry about what happened to you as a child. Instead, to figure out why you take negative actions that are counter to your own best interest, just remember to HALT. HALT. It's an acronym, HALT, and it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. HALT is a way to quickly check in with yourself and figure out what's really driving your actions. Because often, what feels like a bad habit is really just a response to an unmet need. So when you HALT, it helps you pause and take control instead of reacting automatically to some emotional need in the moment. And when you think about it, this is at the root of many of our issues. How often have you made a bad decision because you were starving, in a terrible mood, feeling isolated, or just completely wiped out? HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, gives you a framework to catch yourself before things spiral out of control. So let's break each one of those down quickly. H, hunger, is pretty self-explanatory. A few weeks ago, I was stressed out from a busy day, and I suddenly found myself in front of the fridge, devouring half a bag of chips. Was I hungry? Kind of, but it wasn't really about the food. I realized I wasn't just physically hungry, I was emotionally hungry. I'd been running around all day without checking in with myself or taking a break. So my quote-unquote hunger was really a hunger for comfort and control. Sometimes it's true physical hunger. We do need nutrients. We do need to eat. But often we're craving something deeper, maybe validation, maybe connection, or even just a sense of calm. So next time you feel that pull, ask yourself, what am I really hungry for? And realize this is not just about eating. I'll often find myself getting more agitated at something my girlfriend says, for instance, and then when I stop to think about it, there's no reason for me to be getting mad or ramped up. And then I realize, oh, okay, I actually haven't eaten all day. And then I can pause and say, babe, I'm sorry. Can we just take a step back and let me eat something before I say something stupid or act in a way that I'll regret? And just like that, crisis averted. A is anger. Often, anger in one area of our life can start to seep out into others. So when we find ourselves bubbling up and lashing out at people we love, people we care about, or people who don't deserve it, a good reminder is to check in with yourself and see, am I reacting out of anger? I had a client named Sarah who kept snapping at her husband after work. She would tell me later that she felt terrible about it, but she couldn't figure out why it kept happening. So as we started to dig into it and evaluate her days and weeks as a whole, we started to notice a pattern. And it was that the days that she snapped at her husband, she wasn't actually angry at her husband. These were often days when she was overwhelmed and angry from work. And she was often angry at herself for staying late at a job that she didn't enjoy. Then her frustration would spill over into her personal life and she would take out that anger on her husband because he was the only one around. Once she identified that anger, she started venting through journaling and even setting better boundaries at work. Understand though, anger doesn't always show up simply as yelling or lashing out. Anger can also be frustration, impatience, or even self-sabotage. And that's why when you give yourself a moment to HALT, it lets you ask, am I angry? And if I am, what am I actually angry at? Is it the person or the thing that I'm directing my anger at currently? Often, you'll see that it's not, and that will give you a chance to redirect it or change course. Often, what you'll find, just like Sarah did a moment ago, is that what feels like justified anger in the moment, you feel justified at your partner or your employee or whatever situation that you're directing your anger at, is really misplaced anger for something else that's leaking out because your container is too full and you just can't hold it all. L stands for lonely. Lots of people today struggle with various vices and addictions, from alcohol to drugs, food, even phones. Many of these, some would argue maybe even all of them, can be used in moderate, potentially even healthy ways. But eventually, anything done too much can tip and become damaging, and become more destructive than constructive. And while for a lot of people, they might think it's about the amount of alcohol, the amount of scrolling, the amount of video games that makes it go from just a casual hobby to a problematic addiction, what research has found is that for many people, the deciding factor is actually when the thing becomes something that you do alone. Eating a big meal with your friends and your family feels great. You probably feel energized afterwards. You feel happy. You laugh about it. But eating the same size meal sitting alone in the parking lot of your local McDonald's or Burger King feels very different. Watching a movie with friends is a way to connect, but scrolling for hours and numbing your mind so you can disconnect from reality is completely different. All of this points to the fact that loneliness can be a powerful detractor. And conversely, when you do things with groups, whether it's work out, walk, write, work, or anything else, it inherently feels better and builds you up. Because humans are, at our root, social creatures. So this also shows us that it's not actually the vice that you need, the drinking, the distracting, but rather it's connection that your body is seeking. Loneliness doesn't always scream at us. When you hear about the epidemic of loneliness that researchers have spoken about, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic, it's easy to think, well, that's not me. I have family, I have friends. But the reality is, it's not just someone sitting alone with no friends, no family, in a room, never interacting with anyone that suffers from loneliness. It can happen to all of us, especially in the modern world where we are so hyper-connected that we don't realize that we're not getting the deep connection that humans actually crave. So if you're not paying attention, you start to subconsciously fill that void, even though you don't realize the void is there. And then many people can start to mistake this loneliness for boredom or restlessness. And so they try to fill that void, again, that void which needs human connection, but instead they try to fill it with video games, drinking, drugs, movies, scrolling, or whatever else. But the antidote is not numbing out, it's reaching out. Connection is the thing that wins. So when you halt, it can remind you that the negative thing that you're reaching for is actually just a gap filler for something that we all know all humans need, which is true human connection. And T stands for tired. We all know that we make worse decisions when we're tired. How many times have you snapped at your significant other or ended up downing a pint of ice cream or an entire pizza because you were low on sleep? We aren't the same when we're tired. Sleep is so impactful, not just to our body, but to our mind. And this cannot be overstated. I've been a nutrition coach for, again, nearly 15 years. And I've had lots of people tell me, I binged on a whole pizza or a whole pint of ice cream or a whole value size, whatever, this, that, the other thing. 100 out of 100 times, when that happens, it's at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I have never had someone tell me that they binged on ice cream, pizza, even pancakes or cereal or anything like that at 10 o'clock in the morning. When we're well rested, we make better decisions. That's just a fact of the matter. There's an old story about a woodcutter who worked tirelessly every day. And over time, his axe got dull, and he had to work twice as hard to chop the same amount of wood. But he refused to stop and sharpen his axe because he was too busy. Eventually, he burned out and he couldn't work at all. And this is what's happening to you when you say you're so busy and too busy to rest. This is what happens when you don't address exhaustion. This is what happens when you're staying up late, burning the candle at both ends, and you're actually sabotaging yourself, causing yourself to make worse food decisions, or to skip the gym, or to be more short with your partner, or to make poor decisions in your business because you're not as sharp as you could be. Whether it's physical or mental fatigue, being tired dulls your ability to make good choices. Not to mention that when you're tired, everything feels harder, and your willpower dissipates. So the solution isn't to push through it, it's to halt. Notice that your negative pattern is stemming from being tired, and then rest, reset. Sometimes sharpening your axe means taking a break. Remember, I've talked a lot about food or relationships in this, but HALT isn't just about food or arguments. It applies to just about every negative habit you can find yourself in. If you're scrolling on social media, ask, am I lonely or tired? If yes, scrolling probably isn't the solution. It's a sign that you need connection or you need rest. If you're procrastinating, are you overwhelmed or are you angry? Procrastination often stems from avoiding discomfort. It's not actually solving the issue, it's numbing it. Are you picking fights with someone, with your partner, your employee? Maybe ask yourself, are you hungry? Are you tired? Most fights aren't actually about the fight. They're about unmet needs in some other area. Once you've started to teach yourself to halt, you'll start to notice these patterns everywhere. Even if you don't notice a pattern immediately, it at least gives you a fighting chance. Reminding yourself to halt will slow you down, which will allow you to not fall into the trap of tripping over the same landmines over and over. And the beauty is that that gives you power in and of itself. Instead of feeling like your habits control you, you're able to take a step back, reflect, and respond intentionally. So the big lesson is, negative habits are not random. They're signals that something deeper is going on. To break out of this pattern, simply HALT. Ask yourself, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? HALT helps you pause, identify your need, and respond in a way that actually serves you. So my action step for you this week, when you notice yourself reaching for a negative habit, whether it's food, your phone, or an argument, just HALT. Ask yourself, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Identify the real need and take one small step to meet it. I hope that you're able to halt some problem or negative habit this week. Remember, making change doesn't have to be just about willpower. It's about understanding yourself and creating a system that works. Often, that has to do with going a little bit deeper with just the action that you're trying to avoid. Figuring out the reason you're taking these actions is what's going to allow you to stop falling into the same patterns in the long run. So although it does take a bit of upfront effort and it is challenging, it will pay off in the long term when you don't have to deal with it over and over and over. That is change made easy. If you're really passionate about making this change stick, then I just have to remind you about my free weekly newsletter. Don't miss out on joining the thousands of change seekers just like you who get a curated list each week of 5 educational, informative, and inspiring pieces of content that will help you on your quest for change. Go to the notes of whatever app you're listening on and click the link that says free newsletter now. And you'll be signed up to get free tips sent straight to your inbox every Friday that will help make your change journey easier. All you have to do is click free newsletter right now. Go to that link and I'll see you back here every Tuesday and Thursday for new episodes of Change Made Easy.